Now, you may also be involved in a BIA, Business Impact Analysis, and you may have heard this before. This is identifying discrete business activities and the owners of those processes. So this is what we do in our business, and this is the individual, this is the employee in our organization that takes care of that. That's going to be identified in our business impact analysis. We're going to identify suitable staff from whom the information can be sought about the business process. Because you may not know everything there is to know about the business processes. As much as we want to wrap our head around, we worked for this company for 20 years, I know everything about this business. You may not know the particulars of a specific process, but I bet you the one that's been doing it for 10, 12, 15, 20 years does. They know where it started, where it is now, and how it got there. Those are the ones that we want to talk to. Those are the ones that we want to include in the business impact analysis. I'm not saying interns and new hires are not important, because they are, obviously, to keep our business going, but they're not going to know the ins and outs of these business processes. They probably not the best staff to get interviewed for this business impact analysis. We want to identify impacts that might result in damage to the organization's reputation, damage to our assets or financial position. Find out those critical systems where we can protect assets and reputation and financial position. That's what you're there for. Make sure you keep that executive management happy. They're going to look at that bottom line dollar, and this is where it's going to come back to. We're going to quantify the time scale within which the interruption of each business activity becomes unacceptable to the organization. In other words, how long can we go without this process before it's unacceptable? The telephones are down. Well, how long are they going to be down? 24 hours. That's acceptable. I can deal with that. They're going to be down for 48 hours, 96 hours. That's unacceptable. So we're going to have to put something in place like a backup phone system or portable phones, cell phones, to take place of that phone system until somebody can come out and get it fixed. We're going to have workshops, questionnaires, interviews, and observation inside of our business impact analysis. So the BIA, what its purpose is to predict the consequences of disruptions of business functions and processes, and then it's going to gather the information needed to develop recovery strategies. So this is the part where we're going to go out and say, this is highly important, medium importance, low importance. And then we're going to develop a recovery strategy on all the assets and job processes that we've seen in our organization. We're going to get the critical systems back up first and then work our way down. Like we said, the phone system, maybe it's medium to critical. Data center, very critical. We're a cloud computing company. We're a web-based organization. We have to be online. It's unacceptable to be down more than 6 hours because that's a critical system, just as an example. We're going to have potential loss scenarios identified during this risk assessment in our business impact analysis. So you're going to say, well, the data center is down for 6 hours. We could lose $500,000 an hour. So for 6 hours, $3 million of loss right there. That's what makes that critical. Because you see a dead server, no connections. Upper management, executive management, sees the dollar signs floating away. And that's important to them. It's important to the organization. I'm not just saying they're greedy individuals. They're trying to keep an organization running. They're trying to keep you employed and everybody else employed, keep food on the table. They have a very stressful job as well. But again, we're looking at things completely different. We're looking at the technical side. They're looking at personnel and business to keep moving forward. Now, operations may also be interrupted by the failure of a supplier of goods or services or delayed deliveries. That can happen as well. So let's say I used to work in fast food when I was younger, right? I worked at a particular restaurant. I was responsible for ordering the product. Well, the supplier did not have enough of the meats that we needed. So what we had to do was stop selling that particular product. We could not sell that sandwich anymore because I didn't have it to cook. So that's a critical system. Another manager left, went to another store, borrowed some, or took some, actually, didn't borrow them, I guess, took them from them to pay them back later. But that kept us in business, right? We were only down for an hour. We couldn't serve that particular sandwich, say, for an hour because of the failure of a supplier to deliver the right goods that we needed to support our customers. So all of that could be or should be in your business impact analysis. Now let's switch gears a little bit and talk about personnel security policies. So when it comes to security policies, we can have different ones. These are mainly for our personnel. So candidate screening, important. Employment agreements and policies that we have for our employees. The termination process, vendor, consultants, and contractor controls, compliance, and then finally some privacy when it comes to our personnel. So the candidate screening. When we talk about a candidate, we're thinking about a potential employee, somebody that we're bringing in. Maybe it's somebody that you know or a current employee know. It may be somebody nobody knows. A new hire right off the street just brought in the application from a job posting, but they are a candidate to be an employee. Well, we can do things like reference checks. We do reference checks to check the integrity of that employee. They have an application, right? They hand in an application, they hand in a resume. On there, they may have some references, right? So you can call those references and say, you know, we're doing a background check, a reference check for so-and-so. Would you mind answering a couple questions? And hopefully the candidate told the people that he put down or she put down as references they could be called so they're not caught off guard. And they can take a few minutes to answer some of your questions. So you can verify maybe some of the information on the application. You know, some references are old supervisors. So you could ask them, you know, what was their role in the company? What was their role in the organization? We can do an education verification. Again, check their credentials. They said they graduated from Harvard, top honors, and this and that and this. Check that out. Don't just take their word for it. I'm not saying everybody lies and the integrity of the people are not there, but some people, what's the good word I want to use? Embellish their resume sometimes, right? They make it sound a little bit better because they need a job. You know, maybe they have a family to provide for, and I respect that. But at the same time, you doing the candidate screening, your job is to protect the organization. We don't want to bring in a weak link that may not be qualified to do that position. That's going to introduce a vulnerability in our organization, and the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. And maybe this candidate is just not ideal for your situation, but it may be for somebody else. So we need to do an education verification as well. And then there's tons of background investigations that we can do, or background screenings. Like, again, their job duties. Find out what they were. You know, are they qualified? Do they have the experience to do this job? You may be looking for a system administrator. So you're part of the hiring committee, and you're on there with HR, and you're a security professional, and they put an ad out for a server administrator. And you can see that this individual has worked for 2 or 3 very reputable IT companies. But don't let that be the stopping point, because these reputable IT companies, they may not have done anything that has anything to do with IT in those companies. You know, maybe they were sitting at the front desk and greeting people as they came in. They didn't even do data entry. They don't have anything to do with network administration. They've not done anything with server administration. So not only look at the titles of where they worked, but look at their job duties. You know, if they're applying for server administrator, I would like to see some experience in installing operating systems, backing up operating systems, responsible for the daily maintenance of operating systems on our server systems. Things like that that can lead into a server administrator's job. Look at salary. See what they have made in the past. See what they expect now. You know, they made $15,000 and $20,000 and $25,000, but now for this job they're asking for $95,000. Why? Find out what's going on there. Find out the reasons for leaving their previous jobs. Are they hard to work with? Did they have a falling out with a supervisor? Or did they feel like it was just time to move on? They've hit a road, they've hit a roadblock, or maybe they just hit the top. And upper management said, we appreciate you working here. We don't have anything more that we can provide for you. You know, they're not telling you to leave. They don't want you to leave because you may be a star player, but they want to be honest with you. And you got to respect that from a management point of view when they tell you it's not going to get any better. You've always have a job with us because you're an excellent employee, but we can't get you into management until somebody retires, which may not be for 10 or 15 years. So now you can make the decision as an employee to find something better or better suit you or stay. But you need to find out the reasons for leaving, because just because they were only employed 6 months, you know, most people look for jobs where, you know, people, can keep a job for longer than 6 months, a year or 2 years, right? They want to see that stability, but find out the reasons for leaving. Look at the validity and status of professional certifications. Kind of goes back to the education verification that I talked about, because if on a job posting, and a lot of job postings nowadays, they list every acronym that's in the book, and some of them don't have anything to do with the job. And if they do that and then somebody applies for it and they've gotten they've got 40 certifications, but they've only got 2 years of IT experience, should throw up a red flag for you a little bit that something doesn't seem right. Look at their credit history. It shows about the integrity of some individuals. Driving records. You could go look at driving records and see if they have, DUIs, for example, right? That could tell you about the character of an individual, their trustworthiness, the integrity of what you could do to trust them or not trust them. Goes along with criminal history. Personal references we talked about. Social Security number verification. Make sure they are legal to be employed. You don't want to get somebody that's, say, on a terrorist watch list group, for example, and have them come in your IT organization. That's a huge vulnerability in your organization, and they may be looking for ways to compromise your systems to further do something else. So make sure we do all these background investigations. And most companies that I've worked for have done just about every one of these in some form or fashion. Usually that falls on like an HR person or some type of hiring committee where they may split up the duties, especially if they have lots of candidates to go through. But for the most part, all these checks that we've talked about, they're going to do all of these. So employment agreements and policies. These are signed by the employee before he or she starts a new job or uses its first day. You come in, you're not expected to go do your job, but it's your first day of work. You come in, say, on a Monday, and you're going to have to sign all those papers. Remember I talked about that stack of papers, your income stuff, your taxes, your emergency contacts, and probably agreement policies and employee agreements and policies, like acceptable use policies, security policies. This is to protect the organization while the individual is employed with you. It's also after the employee has left the employment by the organization, like an NDA. Have you ever heard of one of those before? A non-disclosure agreement. Maybe you're working for a company that makes software or makes specialized computer parts or parts for military weapons. Well, that's proprietary information. That's confidential information. You're going to sign a non-disclosure agreement saying, I won't tell another company what we did here or how we did this. I won't tell another company how this was made or what components are inside of this particular product. And if you do, then you could be prosecuted. So NDAs are usually one of those things that are signed at the beginning as well. Some other policies like job rotation, right? We have it where in our organizations, you may do this particular job and such may do this particular job. But every once in a while, you might want to rotate jobs. Don't let them get too comfortable in what it is they're doing. Job rotation is meant to help prevent fraud, because if one person knows too much about one particular area because they've been doing that job, they're the only ones that have done that job for 30 years. Well, they're going to know the ins and outs of that position, and nobody else really is. Like, well, he does this, but you don't really know how he does it or she does it. So we can rotate that out every once in a while. That's going to involve some cross-training sometimes, especially if you move from one job function to almost a completely different job function. You know, there may be some growing pains there as well. But again, you're preventing misuse of a particular system maybe. You're also strengthening your company if you want to look at it that way. Because if I know how to do this, and she knows how to do this, and she does it for 2 years, and I do this for 2 years, and then we take 2 months and we cross-train each other on what we've done, and now she's doing this job and I'm doing this job, now we can both back up each other. It only makes us stronger, only makes the organization stronger. Separation of duties. This is also supposed to help prevent fraud. But when we have separation of duties, we don't want one individual responsible for the whole process of a particular procedure, maybe, inside of our organization. Like, we wouldn't want the person that approves purchases and makes the purchases and orders the products also be the same one that requests the products. You know, if I'm the individual that says, oh, okay, you need that? That's good. We'll order it from here, and I'll have it delivered by then. I shouldn't be the one that could go ask for that particular product. Like, I could say, oh, well, I need a new firewall. Can I have a new firewall? Yes, you can, because I'm going to tell myself I can, absolutely. So I'm going to order it. I'll probably get the best one that I can and try to stay within budget and go ahead and order that on. But that's not separation of duties. I would need to really ask somebody else to do that. I don't want to be the one that asks for a vacation and be the one that lets people go on vacation. I need to go ask somebody else, right? I want to have that separation of duties. When you have that separation of duties, you break up the procedures, the processes of this. You're going to have what's known as collusion, all right? You may see that, but collusion is where they're going to have to work together now. Instead of you doing it by yourself, you'll have to bring the person A and B where you separated those duties, and they're going to have to come together for committing that fraud or whatever it may be that they're trying to do. That's that collusion. And then least privilege. We've talked about that one a little bit already. People only need enough rights to do their job. We don't want to, again, give, say, domain administrative rights to an end user necessarily that does data entry or does customer service, right? They don't need to back up servers. They don't need to be able to restart servers. They don't need to be able to create accounts or delete accounts or change passwords. They don't need that permission. So we're definitely not going to give them those permissions, right? We want to give them just enough to do what it is they need to do. The thing about least privileges, we don't usually do this at home, right? I teach lots and lots of classes, and I ask this one a lot in all my security classes. You know, I'll be teaching at an organization, and I say, who does least privilege? And about 50% of them raise their hand for the organization. They're like, yeah, there's only a couple of us in here that have administrative rights. And that's a good thing, right? That makes me feel good that the message is getting out there. But then I say, okay, so that's in the organization, in your company. I said, back up and think about your home for a second. And I said, who does least privilege at home? And you may have one hand go up. Because, let's say you go buy a brand new computer, all right? And we live in a Microsoft world. Again, I'm not pushing one particular vendor. It is what it is. So you go to the department store, you buy a brand new computer, you take it home, you take it out of the box, you put it on the table, you turn it on, you're all excited, right? Brand new computer, it's the fastest one out there. And you turn it on, and it starts going through its setup. And there's a particular point in there that asks you to put in the first computer user. So you type the name, maybe the family name, maybe it's your name. It's your new computer, right? And you hit go next, and it's setting it all up, and then you see your first desktop. And everything's cool, and you go on. But the whole time you're going on, you're logged in as an administrator. And maybe you just need that computer to, I don't know, work on some papers or spreadsheets or just surf the internet or play some games. Right? I bought a brand new computer for my son. Put it in his room. All he does is play video games on it. Right? He doesn't install anything. He doesn't do anything that needs administrative rights. So I didn't give him administrative rights. He has just enough privileges to do what it is he needs to do, and that's play games and surf the web. He can't install things. He can't uninstall things. He can't back it up. He does not have those elevated privileges. And then lastly, mandatory vacations. Sometimes we need to make people go take vacations. This could help not eliminate, or maybe identify would be a better word, fraudulent activities. Kind of goes back to job rotations in a way. And what I mean is if somebody gets too comfortable in a particular position, they're doing the same activities over and over and over again, but they've not left the office, other than to go home in the evenings and maybe on the weekends, they've not left the office in over 2 years. And all of a sudden, maybe not all of a sudden, maybe you've been looking, and for the last 6 months, things look a little off to you. So what you could do, and all digital fingers are pointing at this particular employee, you could force mandatory vacations and say, you've got 6 weeks of vacation saved up. Why don't you go ahead and take 2 weeks, and then we'll get somebody to fill in. It helps with that job rotation, right? Somebody knows how to do your responsibilities. So somebody could rotate in that job. You go ahead and take a couple weeks, go do whatever, take a cruise and, go camping, whatever. And we'll get this covered, come back refreshed and ready to go. Well, while they're gone, all right, you can rotate somebody else in that job. You can do investigations a little bit easier. You can see what's been going on. You can monitor and see if that fraudulent activity that you've been noticing has stopped all of a sudden, because now that individual is no longer in the company as far as physically in the company, right? They're still part of the company, but you sent them on vacation, right? So that may point you into suspecting them more of the fraudulent activities. It's a little easier, by the way, to do investigations on somebody's system when they're not sitting right there, because people get, even if they are completely innocent. All right, I have gone to people's computers in different companies that I've worked for and said, I need to look at something, and I know for a fact that these people are completely innocent of any wrongdoing, but they still get nervous when you sit at their computer. It's just, people do. They just get a little apprehensive about it sometimes. Some people don't. They're like, all right, fine, that means I don't have to be on it right now. I'm going to go get some coffee, right? But some people, most people, they get a little apprehensive about that. So being on a mandatory vacation kind of helps that a little bit, alleviates that stress for you as the auditor or the investigator, and them as the employee. So it's just better for everybody. And hopefully you don't find anything fraudulent. Maybe it was just a data error, mistake in the processes, and everything would be cool. But sometimes it doesn't go so cool. So we need to talk about our termination processes. We talked about the candidate information, and we're going to bring them in. But what if it's time for them to go, right? We can have a friendly and an unfriendly termination. Now, friendly is usually the way we want to do this, right? Somebody's retiring, they've been in the company for 35 years. Thank you for your service. We have cake and punch, and everybody's happy, and they go home at the end of the day with their brown box. That's a friendly termination, right? Everybody's on communication terms, everybody's shaking hands and smiling and hugs, and everything's cool. With this friendly termination, you may do things like an exit interview. How did you like working for this company? What did you like best? What did you not like? Where are areas we could improve? What are things that you would like to see us continue to do because we do well? Things like that. People are a little more honest about questions like that, by the way, when they're already got one foot out the door. If you ask somebody that's only been there for a couple years, hey, what are some areas we can improve? They may not be as honest because they don't want that to affect their job status with that organization at that time. But if I'm leaving already, my last retirement check from you is coming, I'm fine. I'm going to say, well, you could have improved right here a little bit because in the last 10 years, I've seen, a lot of animosity between these two silos in the organization. So these two groups, they don't really work together. Maybe you want to try to this, and this. So that's awesome. That's a good chance for management or HR to get some good feedback from employees is on exit interviews. You may want to do a NDA reminder, that non-disclosure agreement that they signed way back, right? It's still going to be in their file. So you open it and say, okay, I just want to remind you, not that I think you're going to do it, but legally I need to remind you, here's the NDA that you signed. Remember, you can't, talk about the systems that we worked on here and da-da-da-da-da. And I'm sure they're going to agree and everything will be fine. Then you're going to want to collect their access badges, tokens, cards, etc., right? They had a card swipe to get into the data center. Well, they probably don't need to leave the building with it, accidental or not. So you want to ask for that stuff back. And HR, I've been involved in these as well, where they usually have a checklist so they remember what to ask for as well, because it's not like you have a friendly termination or a retirement every day. And it's one of those things of, you don't use it, you lose it. So HR will have like a checklist of things they need to ask, right? The exit interview. Did I remind them of the NDA? Did I tell them about their benefits? Did I tell them about how they can continue with health insurance through CROBRA? And, did I get their access badges? Did I get their tokens? Did their accounts get disabled? All right, all those things we need to take care of. Now, you may have an unfriendly termination. So let's say that employee took that mandatory vacation. The fraudulent activity stopped once that employee left. The employee came back off vacation, rested, good to go, all happy. A week or two after they return, the fraudulent activity seems to begin again. So you're starting to see a pattern, and it may lead to further investigation, and it may lead to a termination. In this case, it's going to be an unfriendly termination because in every sense of the word, it is a termination. They're doing something fraudulent. It may be committing, what's that term we talked about just a minute ago before I spit it out for you? That's right, they're committing a computer crime, right, with your materials. So now you may be responsible if they're attacking another network or whatever the case may be. But you notice this is going on, leading to this termination. So things we want to do is disable their accounts immediately. We're going to go, not us, but HR is going to go. Don't do this as a security professional, by the way. Don't go to somebody's desk and say, I know you've been doing something wrong. You need to get up and leave right now. Or you need to go talk to HR. That's not us. That's not our job. We investigate, we do what was asked, and we pass it on. Let somebody else take care of that part. You don't want to be involved in that. But HR will go, probably call them into the office, explain to them what's going on. There was an investigation. We found X, Y, and Z. We're going to ask that you leave the premises. Please give me your access badges. Give me your tokens, your cards, or whatever right now, please. Have their accounts disabled. Why HR is doing that, usually you have a security professional or IT guy taking care of their computer system right now. You may have to escort them from the building. That's a very uncomfortable situation as well. You escort them back to their desk, let them get their personal belongings, picture frames, personal pens, things like that they've brought from home. Box it up for them and escort them out the building. We want to make sure they're not doing anything malicious on the way out, getting on another computer system or breaking something on the way out the door. All right, so you may have to escort them from the building. So termination process can be cake and punch type of day, or it could be a little tension in the office area, depending on how that termination goes. Now, when it comes to our vendors and our consultants and our contractor controls, we need to put the same controls in place that we have with our employees, if not more. Why? Why do we need that? Why is that important? They're not employees. Why do we have to give them the same treatment? That's right. They have the same access that our employees have. If I'm a consultant or a contractor and I'm coming in and you hired me to do contractor work, I'm in your organization. You may give me access to the data center or communications closets. I have physical access. I may have some data access. Depends on what I'm contracted out to do. I may be an application developer. And if I do, now I know your business processes because you had to tell me, because I need to write the application to fit your business processes. So now I know a little bit about your company, if not a lot about your company. So we need to make sure they're following the same policies as our employees. We may have them escorted around all the time. I've been in businesses where they have to escort me everywhere I go, right? I was a contractor and I went into the building and everywhere I went, they had to escort me around. It was a super secure facility. May have monitoring. Maybe you need to monitor these employees, or not employees, monitor these contractors, consultants, or vendors a little closer, right? Check the logs daily, twice a day. See if they're on CCTV, closed circuit television. Ask the escort. Ask them to report to you every so many hours. You go watch them every so hours. Go check up on them. Leave your desk, physically go walk and say, hey, is there anything? You don't have to walk in there and be like, what are you doing? Just walk in and say, hey, just checking on you, seeing what's going on. If you need anything, everything's going cool. All right. And then leave, right? Have an NDA. Make them sign an NDA. If you're not going to do the other two, they need to sign this one, that non-disclosure agreement. Again, they're in your organization. They're not employees. You don't have that sense of trust, or you shouldn't have that sense of trust with them like you do a regular employee. You know, after you work with somebody for so long, there's that inherent trust that you have with them, right? You know what they're going to be like. You know their personality. You know their work ethics. You begin to trust them. It's just human nature. Consultants and contractors and vendors, they are temporary. They come and go, and they've been in lots of places, lots of businesses, right? Make them sign an NDA so they're not sharing your information with a competitor down the road. You don't know where that contractor is going to go next month, and you can't say you can't go work for them. Now, that's not true. Let me back that up. Some contractors you can if it's in the contract. All right. If you come to work for me and I put in the contract, you cannot perform this same duty for the next 6 months or a year, then that is a binding contract. So I'll retract what I just said. But as far as consultants or vendors, you know, you can't tell one vendor that they can't sell something to somebody else or provide services for them like they did you for somebody else. So NDA. And I'll get off my soapbox about this, but it's very important. Privacy. Privacy is something that everyone expects, but when is it okay, if there isn't okay, for employers to monitor employees? And thinking about it, how far can they go, right? You know, you may have security cameras in the hallways, all right, cool. You may have them in the office area, cool. But what about the break area? What do you think about that one? That'd be cool. I mean, that's the place where you're supposed to be able to go and have a soda or a cup of coffee or eat your sandwich or your lunch and maybe vent a little bit to another employee. You know, there's nothing against the law saying you can't vent about your supervisor. We all do it all the time, right? You know, man, I can't believe he gave me that project. I'm already busy as it is, and they know that. Why did he do that? But if you feel like you're being watched all the time, you may not have that sense of privacy anymore. What about the restrooms? Locker rooms for some organizations. Would you ever expect to see a camera in there? I hope not, because that's a pretty big violation of privacy, right? Say you work for a pretty big organization, they've got a gym area, workout area, or whatever, and they have a locker room. They may have security cameras in the gym area, but hopefully not in a locker room where you're getting changed. What about monitoring teleworkers in their home office? That's a pretty good question, right? You're working for me. I own this organization, my Fortune 500 company, and I allow you to telework. how do I know that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing and you're not sitting there playing games all day long? Do I have the right to monitor you? Can I put a webcam in your home office? Can I put spyware, and I'm not talking about the malware spyware, but can I put spyware monitoring employee monitoring software on your computer so I can see what's on your screen? Can I take a screenshot every 5 minutes and have it uploaded to an FTP server? Can I look at your logs or have your logs sent to our central logging server so I can see where you've been? Right? Those are all gray areas when it comes to privacy. And honestly, I know you're probably not asking me where I am, but I'm kind of on the fence about that. I can see it from an employer's point of view. I can see it from an employee's point of view. So I would say, however, it meets the company's needs, the organization's needs, but you want to take care of your employees. Your employees are your main asset. The personnel that you have inside your company are your employees. Keep them happy. So next we'll continue with Domain 1, talking about the big topic of risk management.